Omer, who are these children?
Children who were born or raised inside Syria, and their parents were mostly ISIS members. So we have many different kind of issues here. So for instance, some of these children were born inside Syria in a marriage between two ISIS members. Some others were forced marriages between an ISIS member and a Syrian woman. Others were just local people and their children. So it's a mix. And the problem here is that the YPG terror group who is operating the camps and prisons there doesn't know the local area, doesn't have connection to the local area, and it's an alien force in the region. And therefore it cannot differentiate between the genuine local civilian and an ISIS member. So it has put together civilians, ISIS members inside the Al-Hol camp en masse. And with them there are also foreigners from Europe, Central Asia, etc. But the most of the camp are Syrian and Iraqi national citizens. So we know that these children who are now inside the Al-Hol camp and who have been partially moved to prisons of the YPG is a major issue, because these children have no future. Most of them have no ID cards or passport or whatsoever. And many of these children are being radicalized inside these camps and prisons. So we know that ISIS is running a parallel structure inside this Al-Hol camp and indoctrinating the people there, indoctrinating children there, and now moving the children to the prisons, which was being worried by the Red Cross, is something horrible, because a prison inside Syria isn't like a prison we know from the civilized world. Inside small cells, there are 30% being imprisoned. So we know that the YPG has a high number and high account of imprisonment in order to ensure its totalitarian governance. And inside these prisons, there is no room for the people to sleep. We know that half of the prison cellmates are sleeping, and then the other half, and they are sleeping next to each other. So if we move children into these prisons with ISIS members, with radicalized, with criminals, and with innocent people who were imprisoned by the YPG because they have oppositional views and they want freedom, these children will become radicalized, and these children will be the next generation of ISIS. So what the YPG is actually doing is creating and ensuring the survival of ISIS and survival of these children to become radicalized and to become the new generation of ISIS. So therefore, in total, we know that the YPG does have a high motivation to combat ISIS in order to legitimize itself, but it also wants to ensure that ISIS continues in order to not lose its pretext of European and American support and Russian support to it. So therefore, this is nothing coincidental, but it's a certain and precise move by the YPG terror group to give another terror group the hope of survival and to ensure that it can radicalize its new generation.
Omer, this has been a long-standing problem, not only for maybe the parents of these children. Children are born innocent, right? And I presume that quite a few of these children have been separated from their parents. You're talking about the very dangerous issue of indoctrination as they grow up. What will they become, and how much of a security threat they may present to the whole world? And the world is also looking at those adults who are held in YPG prisons. Is there any indication that the YPG terror group is prepared to let these prisoners go back to their own countries? Because you mentioned that they're not all from Syria, of course.
So the YPG is accepting repatriation deals with foreign countries, but it is also exploiting these in order to gain diplomatic legitimacy. So any country who wants to take back its citizen from a camp of ISIS or a prison camp of the YPG or prison of the YPG needs to send a delegation to Syria, needs to take photos with the YPG delegation, and needs to engage with them diplomatically. Otherwise, the YPG is not giving the citizens ISIS back to their home country. So the YPG has a clear strategy to exploit the situation in its own advantage. But what is more dangerous is that the YPG is planning to release all of the camp inhabitants and all prisoners who are not foreigners, who are Syrian citizens. So if someone is a Syrian citizen, the YPG is planning to release them all without any precondition on whatsoever. And this is a major issue. So we know that the YPG has already released step by step new ISIS, new people from the camps and ISIS members from the prisons. And we know that they have been conducting terror attacks inside the desert region of Syria, and that ISIS presence is going up. So as I said, the YPG is playing here a dangerous game. It's playing with fire. It's trying to ensure that the ISIS is not too much of a deal, but also not gone entirely, in order to continue the pretext of its legitimation and its fight against ISIS. So therefore, in total, I do not think that the international community should let the YPG deal with this. And the international community, the Americans, the Europeans, and also Turkey can play here a role, should find a way to deal with these people inside the camps and the ISIS members inside the prisons by outlining and sidelining the YPG. And this is quite possible. And the only thing that's been needed is that the YPG should withdraw from Deir ez-Zor entirely, right. And the local people of Deir ez-Zor, where these camps and prisons are mostly located, should govern themselves with the support of the international community.
Omer Ozkizilcik, always appreciate the analysis. Omer Ozkizilcik is from the SETA Foundation.